So my coping method is to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. So to keep trying and find what works and let go of what doesn't.
My coping method is expressing myself through music, writing, and anything else.
My coping method is making music.
My coping method is using music to heal my emotions.
My coping method is running.
My name is Hannah Merchant. I'm from Sudbury, Ontario. I think since what's changed really is I'm okay with things not working. So if I try to if I try something in order to cope and it doesn't work, then I kind of just let it go. And if it does work, then I feel great, and it kind of gives me hope. And every time I sort of get a step further than I was before, it motivates me to want to keep going. So a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually have schizophrenia, and I also have OCD. The OCD affects my day-to-day life in the sense that I have a variety of intrusive thoughts that I get on a daily basis. And with schizophrenia, it's a little bit more complex than that. It affects my life in a variety of ways. When I'm unwell, I notice it a lot more. And when I'm well, so like right now, it basically feels just like I'm a normal person. But I have some just different challenges. The biggest one I face is like a cognitive sort of challenge. So that's basically just like, sometimes I have difficulty like with math and stuff, but sometimes around like I can have some social anxiety around social situations. But when I'm unwell, it's like I'm in a different reality completely, and so I do what I do to cope with my mental illness so that I can be in a state where I am well and I can live a normal life. So yeah, from during my last episode was actually me, because I had already recovered twice from 2 different episodes. So even though I was like vastly unwell, I knew that if I really tried day by day, I could get back to a normal level. And it wasn't necessarily like something that even the doctors knew. Like there was this very big elephant in the room that kind of said like, you know, you might always be stuck in this, you know, alternate reality. And I just didn't believe that. And I thought that, okay, maybe if I just try and see what, where this can lead me, where, you know, practicing wellness can lead me. So, yeah. I mentioned that I had 3 psychotic episodes. So my last one was in 2020, and I was hospitalized here in Kelowna for a month. And while I was there, I didn't have a phone. I was brought in involuntarily, so like basically in handcuffs. And I didn't know where I was. I was like I was hearing voices. I was having delusions, and I was at absolute rock bottom. Like I was terrified for my life. And yeah, so I guess while I was in the hospital, I met with a variety of people there that were all trying to help. And I met with some occupational therapists actually. And they had this like sensory room like right in the hospital, and basically they just kind of pulled me aside one day and put like a weighted blanket on me. It was like 22 pounds or something, and they like gave me some essential oils, and they gave me these like little cinnamon hearts, and they basically told me like all these little things that sort of like affect your senses can be really grounding and help bring you back down to zero. And then I thought, wow, there's like really a lot of little things that actually can help. And so it sort of started from there, where I just wanted to see what works. And I knew that that no one could do it for me, and that I had to figure it out myself, and I had to figure out what worked for me, because what works for me might not work for someone else, right? And so yeah, I remember walking around the floor one day with like these cinnamon hearts in my mouth, and I was so like frustrated and angry, and for whatever reason, but I just channeled my energy into this little cinnamon heart, and yeah, like it started from there. And I also like am a big person who thinks about like visualization and stuff. And in my first episode, you know, I was really hopeless. Like I didn't know, you know, it was my first time experiencing this. I didn't know anybody that was experiencing the same sort of thing, and I had read something about visualization, and just thought like, you know, I can't picture my life any different way right now. I'm stuck in this situation, but what if, like, what could it look like? And I just started to imagine kind of what I wanted my life to look like. I didn't have my driver's license at the time. I was like 17, and you know, I wanted to go to school. I had never been to college or anything, and I just started to kind of visualize what my life could potentially be. And yeah, that also kind of kicked my rear into gear, and yeah, I just wanted to see what I could create my life to be, essentially. So it's been sort of like a create your own adventure since then. So yeah. One thing that's been also like foundational for me is meditation and journaling. So literally every morning, I don't care what I have on my plate that day, I'm gonna wake up, and the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna meditate. And it's not fancy. Like I literally have an app where I put on a guided meditation, and I lay there and I focus on my breathing, and it kind of just regulates me in the morning. So whatever, you know, was happening the night before, I just kind of let it go and focus on my breathing. And then following that, I will journal, and I kind of just do it in sort of like a stream of consciousness sort of way. So I just write whatever's on my mind, and usually it's like I'll sit there for half an hour, and if I can't think of anything to write, I'll just sit there and wait until something feels like it needs to be written. So those are two big things. The other thing I've recently gotten into is swimming. I freaking love it. It's like I'll just go for 40 minutes in the pool, like at one of the local pools, and I'll just do laps back and forth, and in that time, like, it's just me in the water, and it gives me time to sort of process, you know, all the challenging things, and by the time I get out, I'm refreshed, and I just feel like, you know, $1,000,000. So those help, but I also like walking. A big one for me has been a support system. So having, you know, my family, you know, a very privileged, and I count it as like something I'm very grateful for, to have my family nearby, because I know not everybody has that, but my family, I also have like supports through like the hospital, which are really helpful. And they basically just make sure that, you know, they check in with me to see like, how's it going, you know, what's stressing you out, you know, what can we help with, and just kind of keeps me regulated. So that way, you know, if something catastrophic were to happen, I would have some support with that. And then I also have like a variety of friends who I just check in with on a daily basis, you know, and you know, and that is really helpful. Also, eating regularly, like making sure I'm like having breakfast in the morning, having lunch, having dinner, like 3 squares a day, where I don't care what it is, but just making sure to get something in me regularly so that my levels are, you know, regulated. Honestly, one of the biggest things that changed it was going to bed at a regular time every day. So I'm in bed by like 8:30 every night, and whether or not I'm sleeping doesn't matter to me. I'm usually asleep by like 9 or 10, but just having that time in bed so that I can wake up early and make sure I'm getting a good night's sleep, that has also gone a long way. So 5 years ago, I was in a different city. I had pretty much sworn I would never move to Kelowna because my family was here, and I also didn't think it was possible for me to have another episode because I was, in a fairly good state. I was having a good time. I was going on lots of hikes, having fun with friends. Like, I was looking back on it now. I was like, in hindsight, I could see something was starting to turn, and I was starting to go downhill a little bit. But I didn't think that I would get through another episode and recover and be in a better place than what I was before 5 years later. Absolutely not. Yeah. I work in the mental health field, right? So I talk a lot about mental health on a day-to-day basis. And I think something that changed from when I first was diagnosed to now is that people are actually talking about mental health. When I first was diagnosed, I was 17, and no one at my school even knew what mental illness was really. No, I'd never heard of anyone having psychosis. I had even anxiety. It was we didn't even talk about anxiety. Now it's so common to talk about. And I think we're starting to create more safe spaces where people are okay to actually be vulnerable, and where it's okay to say, you know what, maybe I'm feeling a little suicidal today, and it's not like the first answer, first response is, let's call the SWAT team, we gotta go protective mode. It's like, how are you feeling about that? What's going on? Let's get to the root of this. Let's actually talk and sort this out so that maybe you want to stick around for a little while longer, and maybe we can, work together and so you don't have to go through this alone. Sort of reframing my philosophy around mental health has helped me positively, because truly, if things are going wrong, I know that I have a system in order to keep me grounded and to recenter myself and to keep moving forward. Because I was in this really dark place before my third episode, before being hospitalized. I remember just sitting in my room in my apartment and just feeling so raw, in my whole body, and not knowing where to go for help, who to talk to, how to even express myself, even what to say. And I thought it was impossible for me to get help. And now I have a foolproof system where it's if I were to ever get to that point again, I have people I can reach out to. I have I have people that would probably check in on me before I got to that point. And I also know things that I can do for myself in my moments where I'm alone, that I know will bring me back to center, help me process, help me move forward. Yeah. And I kind of at one point, it was during COVID too, right? So I was at one point I was I just kind of want to see how long I can live for, instead of thinking about dying all the time, and that's really, it's like I said, it's kind of choose your own adventure, trying to see what you can create and how you can create it. And if things don't go your way, it might not be meant to be, and that's okay, but life always finds a way, so. Mental health is a big word, but to me it means taking care of my brain, taking care of myself, taking care of my body, doing good things for me instead of things that I think would hurt me. It's about being aware of where I'm at and just kind of noticing where I'm at, and it's that it's being vulnerable, and it's being okay with whatever comes up, and just not feeling the need to have to fix or change or improve or anything like that, but just to just be and accept that. You're absolutely not alone, and so many people out there actually care and want to help. And I know that when you're at the bottom and in like the darkness of the abyss, that it just feels that no one does care and there is no help out there. But I truly have learned that there is. And you know, whatever you think is impossible, like the very word impossible says I'm possible. So I just encourage you to think of all the possibilities that could arise from whatever is within you. You know, out of the concrete sometimes grows a flower, and I think that you know, that could be you. So yeah. I really feel for like the young folks nowadays, because it's like it's a different world that they're growing up in that we grew up in, and not all in a bad way, right? There's a lot of good things that we have now, but I'd say like if you're a young person, and I mean I'm not even 30 yet, so I'm still a young person, but if you're like a teenager growing up and you're struggling with your mental health, like really find someone that you can trust and be honest and be open with, and work on that relationship. And if people don't understand, then find someone that does, because people do care, and you can't go through it alone. So my coping method is to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. So to keep trying and find what works and let go of what doesn't.